My mom held me down while my dad arranged my marriage to a dangerous older man. So I ran away and exposed them all. Now, years later, she's sick and asking me to come back because family is everything. In my family, girls were married off as soon as they got their first period. It didn't matter if you were 12, 13, or 14. The blood meant you were ready for a husband at least 3 times your age. I grew up believing this was normal, so it didn't seem extreme to me until I turned 11. That was when I watched my cousin Mayam get promised to a 43-year-old man just 3 days after her first period. His previous 2 wives had both died before turning 20. That night, I made a decision. I started eating less. It wasn't because I thought I was overweight or because I disliked food. I had noticed that the thinner girls in my family were usually the last to start their periods. At the time, it felt like my only strategy. Later, I learned that the body actually needs a certain amount of fat to begin puberty. The other girls called me skeleton, but I ignored them. Girls my age were already promised to men who had children older than they were. That didn't stop my family from preparing me to be a wife. Every Friday, from 1 a.m. to 10 a.m., I had to serve meals to male relatives for hours without speaking. If I made eye contact or any noise while serving, I received 10 lashes with a belt. I was made to hold hot pots without oven mitts to toughen my hands for kitchen work. Every night, my mom covered my face in skin whitening cream so I would look beautiful. Aside from secretly starving myself, I was the ideal daughter. I never complained. I spoke often about how excited I was to have children one day. By 14, I still hadn't gotten my period. That's when something happened that changed everything. For context, we were living in the United States the entire time. My mom had convinced us that this lifestyle was normal and that any girl who rejected it would end up alone, ugly, and worthless. One day, a teacher insisted I meet with her after she noticed how thin I was. I had worn a t-shirt to school, and it exposed just how frail I'd become. When she stepped out briefly and forgot to lock her desk drawer, I saw books about marriage laws and pamphlets titled Your Rights as a Young Teenager and When Culture Becomes Crime. As I read, I was stunned. It was the first time I encountered the idea that marriage under 18 was illegal. No cultural exceptions, no parental consent loopholes. I slipped the thinnest pamphlet into my waistband. Over the next few weeks, while my parents thought I was asleep, I memorized every page. CPS phone numbers, shelter addresses, the exact phrases that would trigger a mandatory report. I learned that teachers, counselors, and doctors were legally required to report suspected abuse. Soon after, I started what I called a wife skills group in my uncle's tool shed. 6 younger cousins who hadn't started their periods yet met with me there. They were desperate to avoid the same future. I taught them what I had learned, who the mandated reporters were, and how to clearly say, "They're forcing me to marry. I'm only 13. Please help." We practiced those sentences in whispers. At 15, my body caught up with me. I got my period during morning meal prep. Blood soaked through my white dress. My mother's scream of happiness brought every woman in the house running. They were smiling, congratulating me, calling me lucky. By nightfall, my father had chosen my husband, Hamoud Habibi, a wealthy construction businessman who had buried 2 wives when they turned 23. Officially, they died of kidney failure. The women quietly said it was from too many pregnancies too young. 2 days later, my cousin Anna, one of the girls from the shed, got her period too. Within hours, she was promised to a 51-year-old man who collected wives like trophies and had 8 children older than her. I watched her expression go blank as they negotiated her bride price like she was property. That night, I handed her my notebook. Every shelter number, every legal detail, every escape plan. "Tomorrow," I whispered, "tell the science teacher. Use the exact words." Her hands trembled. "What about you?" "My wedding isn't for 2 weeks. I'll figure something out," I said, though my voice shook. I was wrong. That same night, there was a knock at the door. It was CPS. My father's expression shifted from confusion to rage as they asked about Anna, about underage marriages, about forced ceremonies. They needed to speak to every girl under 18. As soon as they left, the family closed in. Someone, they believed, had filled the girls' heads with lies. Someone had poisoned them with Western propaganda. They tore apart the house looking for evidence. Within an hour, they found my journal hidden in the tool shed. It was full of phone numbers and legal references. My father burned it in front of everyone while calling me diseased, contaminated, even a cancer that must be removed. "The wedding is tomorrow," he announced, "before she destroys anyone else." Morning arrived too quickly. In an hour, they would dress me in red and gold and deliver me to a man whose 2 young wives were already dead. My stomach twisted as footsteps approached my room. I grabbed the plastic bag I had hidden days earlier. Inside were essentials: a change of clothes, rewritten shelter addresses, and $20 I had slowly taken from my mother's purse over months. The door handle turned. I clutched my stomach and doubled over, groaning. My mother entered, dressed elegantly for the ceremony. "Get up," she ordered. "The beautician arrives in 30 minutes. "Mama, something's wrong," I said, holding my abdomen. In our culture, a sick bride was considered a bad omen. "What did you eat?" "Nothing," I gasped. "I need the bathroom." She grabbed my arm. "You went 20 minutes ago." "Please," I begged, letting tears fall. "It hurts." She released me. 5 minutes. The aunties are waiting." In the bathroom, I locked the door and stood on the toilet. Weeks earlier, I had loosened a ceiling tile. I hid my bag inside and flushed the toilet to make it believable. I groaned loudly. "Mama, I can't stop my stomach." She pounded on the door. "Open it." "I can't," I cried, climbing back onto the toilet. The small window above it had been painted shut for years, but I had been scraping at it with a stolen butter knife. Just one more minute. More pounding. My aunts had joined her. I pushed hard against the frame. The paint cracked, then gave way. Cool air rushed in. The opening was small, but months of starvation had made me thin enough. "She's taking too long," my father shouted. "Break it down." I pulled my bag from the ceiling and shoved it through the window. Then I squeezed myself through, shoulders scraping painfully. The door shook under repeated blows. My hips got stuck. I twisted sideways, biting my tongue to stay silent. Just as the lock splintered, my legs cleared the frame. I dropped 6 feet onto wet grass, twisting my ankle but not breaking it. Shouting erupted inside. I ran barefoot, my nightgown catching in the wind. I sprinted across our backyard and into neighboring yards. Dogs barked. Motion lights flicked on. I kept going. Our neighborhood was filled with families from our community. Any of them would return me without hesitation. I cut through yards, past pools and garden sheds. Engines roared behind me. They were already searching. I hid briefly behind garbage bins as headlights swept past. My cousin Omar's voice echoed, "Check every street. She can't be far." The main road was 3 blocks away. The bus stop was 4. I had planned this route in my mind countless times, but never barefoot, never this terrified. My feet left bloody marks on the pavement. Glass lodged in my heel, but I didn't stop. A shout came from the left. A car screeched nearby. I dove through rose bushes, thorns tearing my skin. I crossed a backyard that didn't belong to our community and reached the alley. The bus stop appeared just as the morning bus arrived. I ran forward, waving. The driver, an older black woman, saw my condition and held the door. I climbed aboard and froze. The money was in the bag I had hidden earlier. "Please," I whispered. "I just need to get downtown." An elderly woman near the front stood and fed exact change into the machine. "Sit down, child," she said gently. She didn't ask questions. She handed me tissues and sat beside me. The bus pulled away as Omar's car entered the lot. She shifted slightly, blocking me from view. When we reached downtown, she pressed a $10 bill into my hand before getting off. "Whatever you're running from," she said quietly, "don't go back." She returned with the school nurse's first aid kit and started cleaning my feet. That was when I finally began to cry, real tears this time, not the ones I forced in the bathroom. "They're going to make me marry him today," I sobbed. "He already had 2 wives who died. I got the protective order, but the shelter is full. I have nowhere to go, and they're looking for me." Miss Rodriguez pulled out her phone and called the CPS emergency line. "They are required to place you somewhere safe," she said firmly. But the response on the other end was discouraging. 15, we need stronger proof of immediate danger. A protective order based on allegations isn't enough. Has she been physically harmed? Ms. Rodriguez's expression hardened. She has glass in her feet from running barefoot. She's covered in cuts. If those injuries happened during escape, they don't qualify. We need evidence of abuse by the family. At that moment, my phone rang again. This time, Ms. Rodriguez answered. Hello? Her face went pale. Mr. Habibi? No, your daughter isn't... What? No, she's... I could hear my father's voice through the speaker. Calm, polished, the same professional tone he used in business meetings. She's unwell, he was saying. She has mental health problems. She needs medication. We're extremely concerned. Ms. Rodriguez ended the call. How did he know you were here? My phone, I said, of course. They were tracking my location. Delete everything. Do a factory reset now. As I wiped my phone, she continued making calls. CPS supervisors, social workers, legal aid. Each response was the same. Without clear, immediate physical abuse or stronger documentation, they could not act quickly. Then we heard car doors slam in the parking lot. Miss Rodriguez locked the classroom door and pulled down the blinds. Stay quiet. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Several voices. First in Arabic, then in English. We know she's here, my father called out. Her phone shows this location. She's sick. She needs help. They tried the door handle, at first gently, then harder. I'm calling 911, Miss Rodriguez whispered. Wait, I said, grabbing her hand. Let me show you something first. I rolled up my sleeves, revealing circular scars from being forced to hold hot pots. I showed her bruises from that morning when my mother tried to push me into the wedding dress. Then I lifted my nightgown slightly, exposing the belt marks across my back from years of punishment during Friday service training. Her hands trembled as she took photos. Why didn't you tell anyone before? I thought it was normal, I said quietly, until I read your pamphlets. She dialed 911 immediately. There are multiple men attempting to force entry into my classroom. I have a student in immediate danger. Please send officers. The pounding intensified. Then my uncle's voice joined in. We have her medication, he shouted. She's bipolar, schizophrenic. She invents stories. Check the parking lot cameras, I told Miss Rodriguez urgently. I came alone. If they have medication, they brought it with them. She called the school security office. Mr. Williams confirmed he was pulling the footage. In the distance, sirens approached. The banging stopped. Footsteps retreated quickly. By the time officers arrived, my father had changed his demeanor completely. The angry man outside the door was gone. In his place stood a concerned parent in an expensive suit, holding prescription bottles labeled with my name. Thank God you're here, he told the police. My daughter is very ill. She has delusions about our family. The officers separated us. One stayed with me and Miss Rodriguez, while the others spoke to my father and uncles in the hallway. She has never been on medication, Mrs. Rodriguez said firmly. I've taught her for 2 years. Look at these injuries. The officer examined my feet. Cuts and bruises can sometimes be self-inflicted, he said cautiously. If she's experiencing a mental episode, check when those prescriptions were filled, I interrupted. If I've been treated for mental illness, there should be records, doctor visits, therapy, something. Ms. Rodriguez opened her laptop. I have her essays, she said, months of them. She had saved everything. Every assignment where I described traditional cooking lessons that actually meant burned hands. Every reflection about preparing for marriage that hinted at punishment for making eye contact. The officer read through them, his expression growing more serious with each page. Mr. Williams arrived with security footage on his phone. It clearly showed my father and uncles stepping out of their cars with the prescription bottles already in hand. Anna, I said suddenly, call Anna Mansour. She reported this yesterday. She knows everything. Miss Rodriguez searched for her information, but Anna's family had moved out of state that morning. No forwarding address. Phone disconnected. My father sensed the shift. His calm tone broke. He spoke rapidly in Arabic to my uncles, gesturing sharply. What is he saying? The officer asked. He's telling them to call the family lawyer, I translated, and he mentioned the dowry being non-refundable. That was his mistake. Dowry, the officer asked. Sir, what dowry? My father froze. I misspoke. My English. Your English was clear 5 minutes ago, the officer replied. The next hour passed quickly. Additional officers arrived, along with a CPS emergency supervisor and someone from the district attorney's office. My father shifted between threatening lawsuits and appealing to family honor. My uncles argued religious freedom and parental authority. But the evidence was building. My essays, the documented injuries, the fake prescriptions, the security footage, the emergency protective order filed earlier that morning. She is a minor making credible allegations of forced marriage and abuse, the CPS supervisor concluded. We are placing her in emergency protective custody. My father lost control. He lunged toward me, shouting in Arabic about dishonor and betrayal. Two officers restrained him as he yelled threats about what happens to girls who defy their families. Miss Rodriguez held my hand as they escorted him away. Within 20 minutes, an emergency placement coordinator arrived. Her name was Margaret, and she looked like someone called in unexpectedly on her day off. She took one look at my feet and immediately requested medical transport. We need to properly clean those wounds, she said. The glass must be removed before infection starts. Ms. Rodriguez squeezed my shoulder. I'll meet you at the hospital. You're not alone. The emergency room was crowded. Saturday afternoons meant sports injuries and accidents filled most of the beds. A nurse triaged me quickly, noting the glass embedded in my heel and the cuts along my legs. As the nurse worked, Margaret made call after call. Yes, I understand you're full, she repeated. This is an emergency removal involving forced marriage. She cannot be placed in standard foster care. She needs specialized protection. Every call ended the same way. No space. No available beds. No placement for high-risk cultural cases. Ms. Rodriguez paced the curtained area. There has to be an option. What about safe houses? Women's shelters are at capacity, Margaret said quietly. Weekend placements are always difficult, and in cases like this, she lowered her voice. Families often attempt to retrieve the girls. We need a secure location. The doctor returned to remove the glass from my heel, injecting local anesthetic before beginning the careful process. I pressed my lips together, not from pain, but from anxiety. Every minute without confirmed placement meant more time for my family to search. Wait, Miss Rodriguez said suddenly. Wait, Miss Rodriguez said suddenly. I know someone, a retired nurse who used to work with the district. She's handled emergency placements before. Margaret looked up. Is she certified? Let me call. Miss Rodriguez stepped outside and returned a few minutes later with a small but relieved smile. Theodora Whitman. She's certified for emergency placements and has experience with cultural transition cases. She can take her tonight. Relief moved through me as Margaret began completing the paperwork. The doctor finished bandaging my feet and prescribed antibiotics to prevent infection. As we prepared to leave, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You have dishonored us all. This is not over. I showed it to Margaret. She documented it immediately. We'll change your number, and you need to be extremely careful with social media. They may try to track you. The drive to Theodora's house took about 40 minutes, through neighborhoods far from my community. Miss Rodriguez followed in her own car, refusing to leave until she knew I was safe. The house was modest and well-maintained, with visible security cameras on every corner and a tall fence surrounding the property. Theodora greeted us at the door. She was in her 60s, solidly built, with sharp eyes and gentle hands. She assessed my bandaged feet and tired expression the way only a nurse could. Come in, dear. Let's get you settled. Inside, the house felt warm and comfortable, nothing like the marble floors and gold fixtures of my parents' home. She showed me to a small bedroom with a lock on the inside. For your peace of mind, she said, the windows have alarms and there are motion sensors around the property. You're safe here. Margaret finalized the paperwork while Miss Rodriguez helped me unpack my few belongings. Before leaving, my teacher pressed a card into my hand, my personal number. Call anytime, day or night. That first night, I barely slept. Every passing car made me tense. Every shadow felt like a relative coming to take me back. Around 3 a.m., Theodora found me sitting by the window. They came for the last girl, too, she said quietly, sitting beside me. 3 brothers and a father stood at that gate demanding I return their property. She gave a thin smile. Police response time here is under 2 minutes. I made sure of it. Sunday passed in a blur of safety planning. Theodora helped me set up a new phone, the number known only to her, Margaret, and Miss Rodriguez. We reviewed scenarios. What to do if someone approached me, how to change routes regularly, which neighbors were reliable in an emergency. Tomorrow, we'll enroll you in school in this district, she explained. Under the protective order, you can't return to Jefferson High. Starting over was intimidating, but staying protected mattered more than familiar hallways. Monday morning brought the first test. At 6 a.m., the doorbell rang. The security monitor showed my aunt and two female cousins holding containers of food and wearing concerned expressions. "We know she's there." My aunt called through the intercom. "We just want to talk. Her grandmother is sick with worry." Theodora did not respond. She calmly called the non-emergency police line. "The individuals named in the protective order are at my property." They left before patrol arrived, but not before one cousin held up a sign to the camera. "We love you. Come home." The emotional pressure had begun. That afternoon, Margaret called with updates. "Your father has hired an attorney. They're claiming parental alienation and demanding your return." Can they do that? They can attempt it, but with CPS involvement and the protective order, it's unlikely. Still, prepare for a legal battle. Tuesday brought flowers, an enormous bouquet left at the doorstep with a card. "Our hearts are broken. Please forgive us. Love, Mama." Theodora photographed everything before discarding it. "Document every contact," she reminded me. I started at the new school on Wednesday. My enrollment was handled under special circumstances, with my records sealed. The counselor, aware of my situation, assigned me a peer buddy and offered the library as a safe space during lunch. "We've handled similar cases," she said. "Your safety comes first." But safety felt fragile when I noticed a familiar vehicle in the parking lot after school. Not my father's, but one of my uncle's work trucks positioned where students exited. I turned back inside and called Theodora from the counselor's office. She arrived within minutes, parked directly in front of the truck, and walked me to her car while recording everything. "Let them know we see them," she said calmly. "Let them know we're not intimidated." Thursday's mail brought legal documents. My father was petitioning for custody, arguing I had been influenced by outsiders and was at risk of losing my cultural identity. Margaret connected me with a legal aid attorney named Patricia, a direct and experienced lawyer who specialized in cases like mine. "Standard approach," Patricia said while reviewing the paperwork. "They'll argue religious freedom, parental rights, and cultural preservation. We'll respond with documented abuse, child welfare laws, and your testimony." Will I have to see them in court? Possibly. I'll try to minimize that, but you should be prepared. Friday morning marked a new escalation. Theodora woke me early, her expression serious. "Check social media. Don't log in, just look." Using a borrowed laptop, she showed me my father's public Facebook post. My photo was displayed beside a desperate message. "Please help us find our daughter. She is mentally ill and needs medication. She has been taken by people filling her mind with lies. We fear for her safety." The comments were growing rapidly. Community members offered prayers, shared the post, and some even offered rewards for information. "This is intimidation," Patricia said over the phone. "He's trying to control the narrative. We need a careful response." By afternoon, the post had been shared hundreds of times. My image circulated in WhatsApp groups labeled as the sick girl who needed help. Then came a deeper betrayal. My younger cousin Margie, one of the girls from the Wife Skills group, posted a video response. Sitting beside her mother, she recited clearly rehearsed lines. "She told terrible lies about our family," Margie said on camera. "She made us afraid of our culture. If you see her, please help bring her home so she can get help." Watching her empty expression, I understood the pressure she must have faced. Theodora held me as I cried. "They're using everything you care about against you," she said. "That doesn't mean you were wrong." Saturday brought an unexpected visitor. The doorbell camera showed a young woman holding an envelope. "I'm from the law office," she called out. "I have documents for the minor child." Theodora remained cautious. "Leave them in the mailbox." As the woman turned, I recognized her profile. It was my cousin Sarah, 3 years older, wearing a wig and business clothes. "Don't go outside," Theodora warned, but I was already at the window. Sarah looked up. For a brief moment, her composed expression faltered. I saw tears. Then she regained control, placed the envelope in the mailbox, and left quickly. Inside were photographs. My grandmother looking frail. My little sister at her birthday party. My chair clearly empty. My mother crying while cooking my favorite meal. Each image carefully selected to trigger guilt. The final photo stopped me cold. It was Anna, returned from wherever they had taken her. She stood between her parents wearing an engagement ring, her expression vacant. On the back, someone had written, "She came home. She's happy now. You could be too." "They brought her back," I whispered. They're going to make her marry him anyway. Patricia reacted strongly when we called. This complicates matters. If Anna retracts her statement, she won't, I said firmly. Look at her face. She's terrified. Fear doesn't count unless she testifies to it. Sunday brought a more direct threat. Theodora's neighbor reported men photographing the house from across the street. They were gone before police arrived. But the message was clear. They knew where I was. Maybe we should relocate you, Margaret suggested during an emergency meeting. Theodora shook her head. If we move, it signals weakness. We stay. We document. We proceed legally. On the courthouse steps, I saw my father gesturing angrily while speaking on his phone. It's not over, Patricia warned. They'll try different tactics. Stay alert. She was right. Within days, the harassment shifted. Since they couldn't reach me directly, they found indirect ways. My old social media accounts, already deactivated, were hacked and reactivated with posts about mental illness and pleas for help. Edited photos of me were circulated to make me appear unstable. Local businesses where Theodora shopped began refusing service. We don't want trouble, one owner said apologetically. Your foster girl, her family is influential. Then came civil lawsuits, not criminal charges, but claims of defamation, emotional distress, and alienation of affection. None had merit, but all were costly to defend. They're trying to drain resources, Patricia explained. It's common. The most painful attacks came through other girls. Videos began appearing online. Cousins and family friends claiming I had corrupted them with dangerous ideas. She told us our parents wanted to sell us, one cousin said to the camera. She made us fear our own families. I recognized the coached language and rehearsed tone. I saw the fear in their eyes. These were girls I had tried to protect, now positioned against me. After we discovered footprints in the garden one morning, Theodora increased security. Police couldn't prove anything, but we understood someone had been watching. Consider witness protection, Margaret suggested during a particularly difficult week. I thought about Fatima hiding for 5 years, about the other girls still trapped. Running again would mean abandoning them. No, I said. I stay. I continue. The next approach came disguised as mediation. A woman appeared at Theodora's door, claiming to represent a cultural reconciliation service. We specialize in family unity, she said smoothly. Perhaps a supervised meeting. Theodora closed the door. The woman left pamphlets emphasizing cultural preservation and reconciliation. Similar attempts followed, a therapist offering reintegration services, a religious leader proposing mediation, even a distant relative claiming my grandmother was dying and requesting one last visit. Each attempt was documented and declined, but the pressure was constant. Then Patricia called. Anna wants to meet. My heart lifted, then tightened. Is it safe? She contacted me through her own lawyer. She says you need to hear something. The meeting took place at Patricia's office with security present. When Anna entered, she looked thinner, exhausted. They made me come back, she whispered when we were alone. They threatened my little sister. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. There's more, she said urgently. They've given up trying to bring you back. Now they want to make an example of you. I heard them mention your new school, something about sending a message. When? Soon. They're watching you, studying your routine, change everything. Before she left, she pressed a small paper into my hand, an address. Other girls, she mouthed silently. Help them. That night, Theodora and I adjusted plans. I would miss school for a few days, vary routines, avoid being alone, but we underestimated their resolve. Wednesday morning, the bedroom window sensor triggered. Lock yourself in the bathroom, Theodora ordered, already calling 911. Glass shattered. Male voices filled the house. Not my father or uncles. Too cautious for that. These were hired men. I locked the bathroom door. It was solid, but not impenetrable. I could hear them searching, calling my name, claiming they wanted to talk. Police are 3 minutes out, Theodora called. The door handle rattled. The frame began to splinter. Then sirens approached. The men fled before officers entered. They left broken glass and muddy footprints behind. We're relocating tonight, Margaret said when she arrived. This placement is compromised. As I packed, I thought about Anna's address and the girls who still believed they had no options. Before we leave, I told Theodora, I need to call Miss Rodriguez. When she answered, I said, remember the pamphlets? We need more. Many more. They could move me, threaten me, attempt to silence me, but they couldn't erase information already shared. The new safe house was 40 miles away, an apartment above a retired police officer's garage. Security was tighter. Cameras, motion sensors, panic buttons in every room. The next morning, Miss Rodriguez arrived with supplies. We began creating information packets. Not simple pamphlets, but guides hidden inside notebooks. Emergency numbers disguised as math equations. Legal rights embedded in history assignments. We'll distribute them through school nurses, she said. They're mandated reporters. Patricia called with updates. The men who broke in had been identified through fingerprints. Distant cousins. Warrants were issued, but they fled the state. Your family also filed an appeal claiming religious discrimination, she added. It took 3 days to assemble 50 packets. We assumed many would be discarded by suspicious parents. But even one reaching the right girl would matter. On Thursday, a social worker arrived with a teenage girl from another family in our community, promised to a 47-year-old man after her first period. I found your notebook, she whispered, hidden in my cousin's room. Margaret arranged emergency placement while I explained the process to her. As she listened, fear shifted into resolve. That night, my phone rang. Don't hang up, a young voice whispered. We're 6 girls. We found your information. I wrote quickly as she spoke, ages 12 to 16, 3 already promised. They were meeting secretly. Talk to teachers. Use specific phrases, I instructed. Repeat the emergency numbers back to me. What if they catch us? Then you try again, I said, and again. Friday morning, Patricia called. Your father's lawyer filed a motion accusing you of recruiting minors and interfering with parental rights. It's meant to intimidate. I refused to be silenced. That afternoon, I met a journalist Ms. Rodriguez trusted. She specialized in human rights reporting. No photos, no real names, she assured me. But people need to know this happens here. The article would take weeks to publish, but knowing it was coming felt significant. Saturday brought a package without a return address. Inside were photos of Fatima at a nursing graduation ceremony, smiling. Her letter read, 5 years of hiding, but I built a life. I became a nurse. I found someone who values me as a person, not property. Stay strong. It was proof that survival could lead to rebuilding. Sunday evening, Margaret called. 3 more girls came forward today. Backlash followed quickly. Monday morning, my father's lawyer held a press conference accusing me of destroying families and spreading Western ideology. Community leaders stood behind him. Patricia responded with statements from teachers and social workers who had witnessed patterns of abuse for years but lacked tools to intervene. Tuesday brought another video. Margie and 4 girls from the Wife Skills group repeating claims that I turned them against their families. To outsiders, it appeared convincing. Wednesday, Patricia called early. The journalist's editor had received legal threats. Later that day, Margaret delivered urgent news. One of the 6 girls, her family discovered her plans. They're moving her out of state tomorrow. Which one? Samira, 16. We coordinated quickly. If she could reach the courthouse before departure, authorities might intervene. Despite objections, I insisted on being nearby. The retired officer parked within sight of the entrance. After 2 hours, a van arrived. Samira stepped out, held firmly by 2 aunts. They were heading inside, likely for passport documentation. She saw me through the window. I mouthed one word, run. She couldn't break free, but she did something else. She collapsed, clutching her stomach. Security responded. In the confusion, she grabbed an officer's arm and spoke urgently. Within minutes, more officers arrived. CPS intervened. As we drove away, I saw my uncle arguing on his phone. They had lost another attempt. Thursday was filled with legal strategy. More girls from various communities were contacting the network. You started something, Patricia said. It's growing. Friday morning, sirens stopped outside the apartment. A car in the lot was burning. In the trunk, police found charred dolls dressed in white wedding gowns. The message was obvious. Margaret proposed another move. I declined. We increased security, I said. We don't retreat. We compromised. Rotating off-duty officers, enhanced surveillance, varied sleeping locations. Saturday, the article was published online. It spread rapidly. Women who had escaped similar situations shared their stories. Organizations offered assistance. Then came a message from Anna. 12 girls in 3 states now have the notebooks. They're making copies. You did it. Monday morning, the community newsletter announced my official disownment. My name would be removed from family records. Anyone speaking to me would face the same consequence. In their world, it was total erasure. Reading it, I felt relief. They had used their strongest social weapon. I remained standing. Over the next days, more girls filed emergency orders. Some reached shelters, others alerted teachers before relocation. Wednesday, I met with advocates who wanted to formalize the network. We'll call it the Freedom Network, one woman suggested.